Okay, so in previous videos we've gone through the process of installing the software we need and designing our WordPress templates. In this video what we're going to do is we're going to set up a local hosted version of WordPress. Now what that means is, rather than installing WordPress on your domain name on your hosting account, we're going to install WordPress on our own computer. And what that will allow us to do is to test the theme that we've created and make sure it works. We can then add plugins to it and configure everything exactly the way we want it to be. We can even add content to that if we wanted to, and set everything up prior to going live on your client's domain. The reason we do that is we want to make sure that everything works and there's no problems or errors prior to going live, because there's nothing worse than setting up your site, it goes live and then there's a problem which could have been dealt with previously. It just doesn't look professional, and it also doesn't look very professional to be doing those edits on an online live site when you can avoid it. So for that we create and use a local hosted version of WordPress, and it's very straightforward and very easy to do. So the way we do that, in a previous video we downloaded XAMPP, so we'll be using that, and the other thing we want to download is WordPress. So in Google, if you go to wordpress.org, and it's the first result here, and then if you click download WordPress and then download WordPress again, that should download the zip file. I've already got it saved on my system. So once you've downloaded it, as I say, it downloads as a zip file. You then need to extract the contents of the zip file, and next what we want to do is we want to start XAMPP. So if I go to the XAMPP control panel option, this pops up, and what we want to do is we want to start the Apache and start the MySQL option here. Now the very first time you do this and install and run XAMPP, you may get a pop-up window. That's just your system asking that the program is allowed to access web pages. So when that pops up, just click the allow access option. So it might pop up when you click start on both of these. Obviously I've already only pop up the first time you do it. If I click start on that, obviously I've done it already, so that option isn't popping up for me, but it might, as I say, the very first time you run it. And if I minimize that and then go to the browser, and if I type localhost, it'll automatically take me to localhost/XAMPP. Okay, and again, the first time this pops up, you probably have the option to select which language you want to view this in. Obviously I'm viewing this in English. So this is what we want. So the next thing we want to do is create a folder for our WordPress installation files, and the way we do that is if you go to start and go to your computer and go to your C drive. When you first installed XAMPP, it should have installed the XAMPP folders on your C drive. That's where you want them to be. Here they are here. If I double click into that, you'll see a folder called htdocs. That's essentially like the public HTML folder that you have on your hosting, where you would put all your web files. So if we double click into this, this is where I create the folders for my client sites. So if I right click here, I would create a new folder and give it a name. And I've already done that for this option, which is here. So I'll just go in there, and I've already populated it with the WordPress folders. What I'll do is actually I'll just delete these and show you what we do. Okay, so we've got our folder here, which is obviously now empty. Then what we do is go to where you've downloaded your WordPress zip file, For me, that's in my downloads folder. And it's here. If I double click it here, here's the WordPress files. What I do is I just select them all, copy them, and then go to the folder that I created for my client site and paste those files into the folder. Okay, so now if I go to the browser and I type in localhost / the folder name, in this case it's the garden test site, and hit enter, you'll get this message, this WordPress error. It says there doesn't seem to be a WP config file. I need this before we can get started. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is creating a configuration file, but before we do that we need to create a database and a user, which again is very straightforward to do. So if you go back to your localhost, you can either put localhost or localhost / examp, doesn't really matter which, so long as you come to this screen here, and to the left you have the tools option, and we want the phpMyAdmin. If you click on that, and this is where we're going to create our database and our user as well. Now what you can do is you can create individual databases for your project files, which is what I do, and then if you want you can create individual users, but because this is a local hosted version of WordPress, what I do is I normally create what is called a super user, so it's just one user that can then access all the different databases, and it just saves having to create a user every single time that I'm setting each one up for each of my clients. And the way we do that is if you just click on users and then add user. Okay, here you can give your user a name. I called mine super user. Host, you would type localhost, give it a password, retype the password, and then if we move down here, global privileges, check all, and then click add user. Okay, and that's all you need to do to create your super user essentially. So give it the name here, whichever name you want to say. I just called mine super user for ease. Localhost, your password, and check all for global privileges, and then add user. And you can see I've got that created here. The next thing we need to do is create a database. So we click here under databases. Okay, give your database a name. So for this we'll call it garden site, and click create. Okay, that database has now been created. Okay, so now what we can do is we can now create our WordPress configuration file. So if we click create the file, and it's telling us we're going to need a database name, which we've got, a username, which we've got, and a password, which we have, and the host as well, and a table prefix. I'll show you what that is in a second. So click let's go. So the database name is the name of the database we created. So it was garden site in this instance. Okay, the username is super user, and then the password that you created when you created the password for the super user. Database host is localhost, and then table prefix, normally what I do is I add a prefix for each of my client folders. So garden site for this, and then click submit. So I'm just going to pause this and put my password in. So once you've clicked submit, you should get this message here. You've made it through this part of the installation. WordPress can now communicate with your database. Click run the install. Okay, so then you should get this window here and give the site a title. Call this garden site, username, and then a password and an email. I know, just put test@test.com. Privacy, allow search engines to index the site. So again, I'm just going to quickly put the password in, and once you've done that, just click install WordPress. So I'll just quickly put the password in. And then click install WordPress. Okay, and then you should get this message saying success, WordPress has been installed, and then you can just click login, put in your username and our password, and then log in. And there we go, you can see now that we're into the WordPress dashboard, and up here you can see it's the local host for our garden site. If I just click on that, you can see it's loaded up the default WordPress theme. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to add the theme that we created. So if I just go back here, now you can obviously do it in two ways. The first is go to Appearance, Themes, and install themes in the normal way, and upload the theme. Now what you might find, depending on your system, you might, if you try to do it that way, you might get a error message that relates to the size of memory that you have for uploading. This is a thing that can happen on your local hosted version of WordPress, depending on the system that you're running, whether it's 32 or 64. I've had that happen, so the simple way to get around that is just simply to put the theme folder into the WordPress folder on your local machine, and I'll show you how to do that just now. So if you go back to the garden test site, and if you see the WP content and then click on themes, that's the two themes we've got. So what we want is we want our the new theme that we created. So if I click onto my documents, that's my templates, and where did we put it now? There we go, I think it was this one here. And because we're not uploading it, we're actually just copying it over. I'll just quickly extract it. Okay, and we want the folder, so is it there? It's there. And then I'll just drag that over to the themes folder, and it's there. And then if I go back to the themes, there's the gardening site there. And then if I could just click activate, you can see here that it's activated our custom theme. And if I click here, you can see that that theme is now live. Okay, and then what we can do is we can then customize the content on the theme and customize the way that the content looks. So that's it for this video. As I say, it was to show you how to set up a local host version of WordPress and install your new WordPress theme. In the next video I'll go over the plugins that I normally add in order to customize the layout of some of the pages for my client sites, mainly for the home page, because in many cases, obviously WordPress was originally conceived as a blogging platform, but it's now obviously been widely used as a content management system. The only drawback is straight out of the box, the layout of the content tends to still be in very much a continuous flow of text. Obviously you add images to that, but in many cases on client sites it's nice to see that text split up into different layouts. So for example, if I go to the actual Artistia website, just to show you what I'm talking about, if we have a quick look at the samples, and this one I'll do just to show you. If I click on preview template, you see here how the content on this page is split into 3 columns. Actually technically it's sort of kind of 4 here, but yeah, split into these columns. Straight out of the box, WordPress doesn't look like that. It would just be, I say, a continuous flow of text. So if you want to create this sort of column format, then there's a couple of plugins that we need to add to create that functionality, and that's what I'll show you in the next video, is the plugins that I use to create those sort of custom layouts, mainly for, as I say, the home page. Okay, so I will see you in the next video.